What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall market. I'm going to break down some big news that came out involving Tesla, what's going on with the economic calendar, what you should be watching for as time goes on. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. Anyways, so far the market's holding up quite nicely. We did see a bit of a sell off today after we got some data from our consumer inflationary expectations being above expectations. Once that data came out at 3.6% versus the 3.3% forecast, it shows that consumers still expect high inflation and there still are some recessionary fears. Despite that, we did sell off a bit only to get bought back up as President Trump is giving a speech right now. He mentioned that the US stock market is very resilient once they got very used to the tariffs. And he mentioned that we're doing very, very well. So he was being very optimistic about the stock market. And we're seeing the markets getting bought back up as a result, alongside other factors affecting this. So as far as Tesla's going, we dipped to about this 246 area. Then we just got bought back up. We're now back at 252. Notice we're trying to hold above 250 first thing. Then we're also making higher lows, right? Look at the last 3 days. The low of the day from Thursday was at 239. Then on Friday, the low was at 241. Now today, the low is at a much higher level. So you guys can see that it's actually slowly uptrending to some extent. We're also making a higher high and higher low. And then we also have this inverse head and shoulder setup, which looks pretty good. So far, Tesla's holding up very nicely. That's despite some negative headlines that are still coming out. For example, we're seeing headlines saying that the Tesla US sales are worse than what is reported, because when you actually look at the numbers, there are estimates that came out that are showing how much Tesla delivered in the US. This is from a Cox report, which cited that Tesla delivered about 128,100 vehicles in the US in Q1 of 2025, which would put them down 8.6% compared to Q1 of 2024. Of course, the sales being down is no surprise amidst all the political tensions, all the protests, all the boycotts, and then everything else that's going on when it comes to the economy. There's a bunch of different factors for why this is happening. But if you compare this, to other companies out there, right? If you look at like Audi, for example, their sales are up 3.3%. BMW sales are up 26.4%, excuse me, at least so far. That's in Q1 compared of 2025 compared to Q1 of 2024. Some tickers like Chevy are up about 114%. But if you look at Kia, it's down 24%, and a bunch of these EVs are still down, such as like Mercedes, Lexus, they're down. Even Rivian's down quite a bit. So a lot of EVs are actually the ones that are down. If you look at like Rivian's down 37%, Tesla's down only 8%. Then if you look at like additional EV models, they're all down about 12.3%. So I would argue that, the overall sales are actually up 10.6%, at least when it comes to the US Q1 of 2025 compared to 2024, for all models overall. But for EVs in particular, they're not doing as well. If you look at like Rivian, if you look at Tesla and other models like that, they're not doing as well. For Tesla in particular, the slowdown happened amidst the fact that there's economic reasons for that, political reasons, a lot of protests and things like that. That's the reason why we're seeing sources saying it's important for Elon Musk to come back and kind of step down from politics. He is planning on possibly doing that soon, stepping down from his leadership role at Doge, becoming an advisor, and is prioritizing Tesla very soon. There's also some news that a man has been charged because of suspected arson attacks at a New Mexico Republican headquarters, at least for Tesla. So this is some big news that came out. He basically, was involved in arson for different headquarters and also a Tesla dealership in the state of Washington. So he's like one of the prime suspects. The FBI was investigating this. That's some big news. So that is what's coming out, at least so far. So I just keep that in mind. I'm not here to really let you guys know about this bad news. I'm just here to let you know the truth, right? That's what matters so much more. And then last but not least, we had a lot of things said by President Trump. I did go on about this. President Trump continued to say that he wants things to be built in the USA in case, we do go to war. And for other reasons like that, he doesn't think we should depend as much on China. So he's been saying that. But despite that, he has been, saying some things that are positive for the markets. And then he did help, some companies like Apple to some extent, as he's been speaking to Tim Cook. So I'll talk more about that later on. For now, we're just going to focus on the charts. Tesla's looking pretty good right now. I just don't want to see us lose 250. As long as we're above that, we're going to be completely fine. And looking at our 4-hour time frame, you guys could quite clearly see we're doing a good job of getting bought back up, and we're holding above our 252.50 EMA here. So this is going to be looking for an attempt to get to like 260 pretty soon. And eventually 265 should be broken for a bigger push. So we're doing quite well. On SPY, we're looking bullish. We have a slanted inverse head and shoulders. So long as we don't lose 534, we're favoring a push for 546 or above. Looks pretty good right now. I think we might be retesting the high here, and if that breaks, we're going to continue to push to even higher levels. So far, so good as we're seeing buyers defend. We did dip a bit to fill the gap. I did mention if we had lost 538, we'd be looking for that dip. We got that dip, but then it didn't really last. We just got bought back up from there. So keep that in mind. That's what's happening, at least thus far. We're seeing buyers defending, and we're doing a good job, at least thus far. For other pieces of news, we have the QQQ, which is doing quite well. The QQQ is also holding up very nicely at these key levels. So you guys can see we're holding 452 very nicely. As long as we don't lose 450, we're going to be completely fine. And this may continue to uptrend for the 470 area. So it's looking bullish. The Russell 2000 is also going to test 188 as you predicted. If that breaks, we're looking for an attempt for 192. Looks more bullish to me. ES is looking a bit more bullish as long as we don't lose 53.69 now. We're actually favoring a push for 55.30 and eventually 56.15. So looks more bullish. For NQ, looks a bit more bullish as well as we're holding our key support. As long as we don't lose 18,650, we're favoring a push back up for 19,600. Pretty good so far. Bitcoin's looking bullish. As long as we don't lose 82,000, we're favoring a push for about 86,900. For Nvda, we look bullish. Nice inverse head and shoulders setup. We could be slowly making our way up back to about 116.8. If that breaks, we're looking for higher levels. As long as we don't lose 107, this is actually favoring 116.8 to 120 as our potential range. So it could be trying to bounce right here. For Aapl, Apple's making higher lows. We did dip towards this support over here around 200, then we just got bought back up from there. So let's see if 205 holds. As long as we hold this, we could continue to uptrend, trying to make our way back up to about 218 as our next resistance. It's doing a good job at holding up so far. Netflix is looking pretty good. We're getting bought back up. As long as we hold 933, we could continue to uptrend for the 980 area with an inverse head and shoulders setup. For the Coinbase stock, we want to break 186. If that breaks, we're looking for an attempt for the 190 area. As long as we don't lose 172, we're looking bullish. Amazon's a little bit lackluster. We need to see it get back up of 184. Otherwise, it's kind of shuffling right now. If 184 breaks, we're looking for 190 as our target. For Meta's looking pretty good. I want to see us get back above 540. If that breaks, we're looking for 552 as our target. Pretty good so far. Microsoft is still struggling to break above 392. It's a tough resistance. If it breaks, we're looking for 400. And if we end up losing like 385, we're looking for a dip. But I do see potential in this. Google's looking pretty good. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders. So long as we don't lose 157, we're looking for an attempt to push for 166. So it could try to continue to go as well. Looking at the VIX, we're technically on a downtrend. It's showing some weakness, especially as we have this gap down here to fill. So this does imply there's likely more upside coming for the markets, at least temporarily. So with that being said, the market's trying to bounce. Tesla's showing resilience. We should be looking for 260 soon. And I think that as long as we don't lose 250, we're going to be looking quite good. Thank you for listening. Have a good one. I'll be back in a couple of hours for another update, and peace out.